is Dynamic Remarketing, and we have Jyoti here, product manager. So I'm going to hand it over to her, and she's going to kick us off. So enjoy.
So hopefully everyone can hear me and the mic is on. No, that's there you go. Yeah, perfect. Now it's on. Hi everybody, I'm Jyoti and I'm a product manager working on dynamic display ads with a mission of building personalized, relevant advertising. So that's really the mission of our product group, and I'm here to talk specifically about dynamic remarketing. And today I'll be covering dynamic remarketing for all verticals. I will get into a little bit of details about how to actually get started, and definitely keep some time for Q&A at the very end. In the last year, we launched dynamic remarketing for retailers via the Google Merchant Center feed, and that's how we sort of entered this market. And this year, we've actually launched a product fully available in AdWords to all advertisers, including SMBs, which scales across all verticals. So feel free to ask me any dynamic remarketing questions at the end, but sort of the focus here is going to be a little bit on our new launched product, which scales to all verticals. So what is dynamic remarketing? So before we get into why we should build a personalized experience here, I'm going to touch a little bit upon remarketing itself and what is the value proposition of remarketing. So data that we have is like 96% of users visit a website and leave without converting. And we've seen that time and time again, 70% of shopping carts are abandoned. And the true value comes in re-engaging these users and bringing them back to your site to convert. Now, we've also seen that re-engaging these users with a personalized and relevant content is what makes the big difference. And doing this at scale, when you have thousands or even hundreds of products and services to offer, is challenging. And that's where dynamic remarketing comes into the play. It's not only a better experience for the user in terms of seeing more relevant content, it's also from a campaign performance, which I'll get into the results later. We've seen significant improvement in performance by offering this sort of personalization experience. And that's sort of where dynamic remarketing fits in and why it's important. So getting personal gets results. So talking about results, the beta, before we had the launch product, obviously we had a period of beta period where we had a lot of top clients experimenting with us, working with us, and overall the results we've seen as we worked on this product has been phenomenal. We've been on average able to get clients a 2x increase in conversions at a 60% reduction in CPA. And all of this mainly driven by personalized messaging that tailors the ad to what the user has interacted with on the advertiser's site, whether it is and how far down the funnel they've gotten, how many products or services they might have looked at, which ones they might have looked at. All of these signals being taken into account to build a dynamic creative, and that's basically given these type of results where you see a 2x lift in conversions and a 60% reduction in CPAs. So this particular product is actually available across all verticals, but here you can see a sampling of some of the top verticals and the creatives that we built for these. All of these creatives are dynamic and have been built on the fly. And as you can see here, there are multiple products in these. So not only do we show the user the products that they might have interacted with on the site, but we also have a recommendation engine that takes into account various signals, in some cases vertical-specific signals, to build this type of creative where you can see that there's 3 properties for a real estate ad, there's multiple offerings in an education ad, and similarly in a local deals type advertisement as well. So we have vertical-specific tuning for some of the top verticals, but we also have a generic recommendation engine that works across all verticals. So these are some of the samplings of creatives across verticals like flights, education, real estate, local deals, hotels, cars. And all of these verticals, if you think about it, there's a lot of data. There's a lot of content that the user can look at, interact with on the site. There's a lot of options on how far down the funnel they can go. They could search for a flight ticket, but not take action beyond that. They could look for specific dates and drop off at that point. So there's a lot of points even in the site funnel that you could lose the user. And in terms of content, it's often hard to bring them back with relevant content when you have tons of data associated with these verticals. And that's really where we try to solve that problem and build this dynamic remarketing product and make it available to all verticals. So how it works. So taking a step, let's take a look at how this actually works. Now, it starts off with the user interacting on the site, looking at specific offers. When the user visits the site, a remarketing tag was fired. The product actually works with both the Google remarketing tag as well as the Google Analytics tag. So whichever tag the advertiser has, it can be tailored and set up to work with this product. Once the tag fires, it sends us some relevant information about what the user has interacted with, how far down the funnel they got. And we use that data along with the product feed, which is the content of the advertiser, to build a relevant dynamic ad at the point at which the user arrives on the Google Display Network. A lot of different signals are taken into account, including how long ago they left the site, what type of device they're on at the point at which they come to the GDN, also what type of products they looked at on the site. And all of these signals are used to dynamically deliver a creative to the user on the Google Display Network. So here again, we show you the top verticals that we have tailored this product for. So what you'll find in AdWords is when you go in to create the campaign, and I'll get a little bit into the campaign creation flow, you'll find that there is actually a selection of business type. So why do we have this selection? What we found is that while we can build a generic dynamic remarketing product, which does work pretty well across all verticals, doing some vertical customization as a layer on top for some of the top verticals made a big difference to performance. And therefore, you'll find that in the dropdown, we actually have some of these top verticals as first-class choices: hotels and rentals, flights, local deals, travel, retail, of course, still via the Google Merchant Center, jobs, education, real estate, and finally, we have a custom option. The custom option is what allows us to scale to all verticals, and it can be more easily tailored by the advertiser to their vertical. Now, for retailers, I just want to recap here that we still want you to use the Google Merchant Center feed, and that will be the entry point. For all of these other verticals, what we have in AdWords is called the Business Data Center. So if you're familiar with the shared library, I'm assuming, show of hands, like how many people are familiar with shared library in AdWords? Okay. So a lot of people are familiar. So there's the audience shared library. Similarly, there's been introduced a feeds shared library, which is called the Business Data Center. And this allows any advertiser to upload their data, their content, their products, their prices, their landing pages, images, whatever their content is, regardless of vertical, they can upload this data into the Business Data Center. And we can then use this data to build dynamic creatives. So that's how we have scaled beyond Google Merchant Center feed, which still is the right thing to use for retailers. And as you can see here, the creatives are built in multiple different sizes, and I'll get to this in a little bit. And all of this will be auto-created for the advertiser at the time of campaign setup. So I'll get into a little bit of details, but I just want to point that out on this slide as well. Seamless and customized advertising on all devices. Mobile is very important. I think all of us know that. And the data from our beta and also from our current analysis has shown that when advertisers add mobile to their remarketing campaigns, they get a 15% lift in conversion volume. And that's why all of the dynamic creatives that are created as part of the campaign setup flow are tuned to mobile, meaning that we auto-create them in both HTML5 as well as in Flash. And we also create them in both desktop as well as mobile sizes. So we get full coverage, and a lot of our layouts and creatives are actually tailored for mobile. So we built out specific ones that worked better on mobile than on desktop. So obviously, in order for all of these pieces to come together, the creative is obviously an important piece. But in order for the creative to perform, we know that it needs to be shown at the right time to the right user. And that's where the bidding algorithms come into play. So the dynamic remarketing product, just as we had with retail, the one that works across all verticals also works with all of the bidding technologies that AdWords has to offer. So this includes target CPA, cost per acquisition, as well as target ROAS, return on ad spend. And in general, what we've seen is that when advertisers go from manual bidding to target CPA, they get a 20% lift. And then from target CPA to ROAS, it's another 10% lift. So if you think about getting the right bid for the user, there are myriads of signals that need to be taken into account. How long ago did the user leave the site? What device are they on? Which products did they view? What is the value of the products that they viewed? And there's numerous other signals. What time of day is it? And to take all of these signals into account and figure out the right bid is really what our real-time bidding algorithms are focused on. And that explains why we made sure that the dynamic remarketing product we built worked well with the AdWords bidding algorithms. And so you can see here that there's an increase in conversions by 20% when advertisers move from manual bidding to target CPA, and then another 10% from there from target CPA to target ROAS. So I've talked a little bit about creative, bidding, and I'll get into the specific details of the campaign setup as well. But I just want to show you some success stories. Jet Airways is the second largest airline in India, and it's a company that's based out of Mumbai. And they basically they were running static remarketing, but they wanted to try out dynamic remarketing and specifically tailor their creatives to the origin and destination that the users were looking for. So they set up the dynamic remarketing campaign and targeted users that were doing searches on their site, but abandoning and not returning to book tickets. And they also tried to capture users who went all the way to the booking stage and then abandoned and did not complete their booking. So they saw, by tailoring the creative, as you can see in this creative, it says Ahmedabad to Mumbai, which is essentially the origin and destination the user would have seen. The image is also something that would vary based on the user's interest of location. So depending on where I'm going to see a different image. The prices, as well as when the user clicks, the landing page that they go to will vary based on the location the user is interested in.
And could the user at that point get a different offer, a different price?
So the offers vary based on destination and based on the origin destination. So if the user was going to Mumbai from a different location, like
just before booking the ticket, and then was shown again that dynamic remarketing ad, would it be able to show in a different price? Special offer. A special offer.
Special offer, yes. So we actually do have the concept of a sale price.
Different landing page.
The landing page is all controlled by the feed. So the advertisers can provide actually we do have this option. I don't have that creative example here, but we do have this option of showing a sale price. And so say they saw, just throwing out an example here, but they saw a ticket for $300 on the site, and we know that there is a sale on this ticket and it's actually can be offered for $250, then depending on depending on the user, we would actually show them an ad with the original price sliced off and then show them the sale price. So I gave a brief intro to the product. There's actually a lot more, but I want to get a little bit into the details of what this actually looks like in AdWords. How can you just go, leave today with all the tools that are needed to set up clients and basically get a campaign up and running. So I can break down the setup experience in sort of 4 stages. Create your campaign, tag your site, upload your feed, and then pretty much ensure your setup looks good and launch and start your campaign. So creating your campaign in AdWords. The first step that you would need to do is actually create a new remarketing campaign. So once you go to Display Network and you create a remarketing campaign, there's the option of using dynamic ads, and it's a simple checkbox that you see at the bottom there. Hopefully this is clear enough for you guys. And then give your campaign a name, obviously, because you'd have to create a new campaign for dynamic remarketing. And the option here to use dynamic ads, below that you have the option of selecting the business type. So this is where the business types such as hotels, local deals, real estate, you'll find a list of already predefined business types. And if your business type is not there, not to worry, because there is an option which is called custom, and that essentially allows the advertiser to tailor it to their vertical. And we actually have a large number of advertisers using the custom option. Many examples, mostly in the services space, where they offer, like whether it's repair services or phone services and so on, lots of different services advertisers are actually using the custom option. And I can tell you that as we learn more, even from this launched product, we are looking to sort of build more vertical customization where we start seeing more adoption. So these are sort of our first set of verticals that we've launched, and with the custom option, but we will be evolving this to add more. So use dynamic ads, select your business type, and these are the business types, as I mentioned, that you will see in the AdWords drop-down today. And I just want to point out again that all of these still use the Business Data Center, except for the retail one, which continues to use the Google Merchant Center feed. So click Set Up Remarketing. And once you click that, you'll enter a setup flow, which walks you through the 3 main steps, which is actually it's sort of 2 main steps, and the last one is more of a review. The 2 main steps are, create your feed and tag your site. So, and then the last one is sort of a review of the things that we automatically create for you, just so that we offer full transparency and the advertiser can see what is it that we're building for them in the backend. Auto-created lists help you target the right audiences. So the third step, which I mentioned, is like review your list. So what we do today is for the verticals that are already customized, for example, going back to the flights example, you have the first page of a flight could be a search page, and then you have a booking page, which is different from the sort of funnel that you would see in retail, where you have, it's a different funnel where you might have a category page. So in retail, it's more of a browsing experience. In flights and in travel, it's more of a searching experience. So basically, tailored to the vertical, we've actually created the auto-create lists. And the lists, as you can see in this particular example, you have general visitors, searchers, product or service viewers, conversion abandoners, and past converters. So based on these, and the reason for creating these lists is because A, we use these signals and the creative tailoring, and B is for the bidding algorithm. So these are obviously the 2 main reasons. Now, we auto-build these lists within the ad group. And these lists are actually visible to the advertiser in AdWords. So they have the option of tweaking them if they want, or of creating their own lists. So there is an option to customize. But this makes the setup a lot easier, and we also reinforces best practices. So after saving your campaign in ad group, which at this point you would have completed, you enter the step of creating your ads. Now, this is something that I'm pretty excited about. So with dynamic creatives, where we have many different what we call layouts, which is just the presentation, look and feel of the ad, So, one ad might have a headline, like in this example, sort of to the right corner. One layout might have a headline at the top. And we actually, for each of these verticals, built out layouts that worked best with that vertical. And while we build the ad, we actually pick the right creative, the right layout on a per impression basis. So it might just turn out that, I'm just giving this as an example, but it turns out sometimes that women might prefer a certain type of layout versus men. And that's why we offer this sort of layout, what we call layout optimization under the hood. So what you see here, what the advertiser will see here is a panel on the right, which sort of shows them a live preview of what their ad will look like in these various layouts. And on the left, what you see is some toggles. We wanted to give them automation, but with some control. So for example, on the left, you see some toggles that categorize these layouts as price-based layouts, mobile optimized. Some of them show ratings, which worked well for things like travel, where you might want to show hotel ratings. And we have things like some layouts have call to actions. So you find some categorization here. And if an advertiser chooses that I don't want to show price in my layouts, for example, you can toggle that off. And the layouts that use that feature will sort of disappear from the preview on the right. So we offer optimization within a pool of layouts, but with some control by toggling off features that the advertiser may not want. So this evolved from feedback that we got from advertisers over the beta phase, where we actually were sort of in the fully optimized mode, and we realized that advertisers would actually like to have, they want the performance, but they also want some control. And that's sort of where this sort of a feature evolved. But in general, for an advertiser who may not want to spend time toggling things off, or just basically wants Google to make it work and give them the best performance, they can just leave the default settings, do a quick preview, which is the multi-preview in various layouts, and just click save, and they're done. Oh, and one thing I want to point out is we also auto-build for them dynamic text ads. So text ads are your GDN text ads, and we make sure that, and they perform extremely well. GDN inventory, text ads inventory is prime inventory. So we auto-build layouts, image layouts, both in mobile optimized, as well as we build out text ads, which are, again, work both on desktop as well as on mobile. Tagging your site. Essentially, we would, in the step where you go through the tagging your site step, we actually send the advertiser exactly what they need to put on the site, and that way we send them an email, and they can share that with their IT person in their company, or work on it themselves and basically tag their site. If they already had a remarketing tag on their site, we're able to pull that and show them what changes need to be made. Completing your feed. Now, when in the feed step, based on the vertical that the advertiser selected, we give them a feed schema, what we call schema, but basically these are just simple columns that the advertiser needs to fill out. And again, the column names are all tailored to the vertical. If you choose the custom option, the column names are a little bit more generic, but still pretty similar. Like you have things like destination, you have price, you have an ID, which is sort of your item ID. That's the custom solution. In the vertical specific solution, you'll find a little bit more tailoring of the titles, and also some columns which are specific to certain verticals. For example, star ratings works really well for hotels, and that's something you would find in a hotel's feed schema. And essentially, we send this schema to the advertiser, again via an email, so that they can work offline to get this data, as well as with all the instructions that they need. And once they fill this out, they can come back in AdWords and upload this file. Find your feed in the business data shared library. So this is the new aspect of the shared library that I was referring to earlier. They would come in here, find the business data center, which is, as you can see, sort of to the bottom of that column. And they can then click on the view and go in from there to start uploading their data. Now, the options are fairly simple. Like you can upload a spreadsheet if it's like you have sort of in the hundreds of items. In cases like travel, usually there is a lot more content, and so they prefer using formats like CSVs, and so they can also upload CSV files in here. Upload, you would choose the upload option, and you can browse for the file on the computer, click upload. You can actually see a quick preview of what your feed is going to look like right in the UI, and apply changes, and then essentially at this point, the audience shared library, you're pretty much done with the feed at this step. So the thing is that because we send instructions to the advertiser that they need to take offline, such as tagging the site and completing the feed, we wanted to provide them an experience in AdWords where they can come back in and verify that things have actually been set up correctly. And that's where the audience shared library provides validation. And it's important to check this to make sure that the custom parameters are firing correctly in the tag and that they're actually matching with the content that the advertisers provided in the feed. Again, you can also verify that the feed items have been uploaded correctly by going to the Business Data Center. It will show you how many items there are. You can actually do a preview of all the items and what your feed looks like directly in the UI. So you can do a quick scan. It also shows you the number of items so that you have a sense of like, I expected to upload 1,000, and am I actually seeing 1,000 items in the, in the UI. So. And at this point, once you're verified the campaign set up, you can save your ads, enable the campaign, and pretty much you're good to go. So that's sort of the UI in AdWords. I wanted to walk through that. And actually, I'm really excited about this because it fully rolled out to all of AdWords just this month in October. And the blog post also went out this month. So this is a all brand new UI that we built to make dynamic remarketing much more scalable and available to all of our AdWords base. So I have time for questions. Yes, I do.
That was an excellent overview. Thank you. The question I had is similar to when we use the Merchant Center, and we'll tie that to, say, a Google Doc sheet, for the product feed, so that it's updated daily. So all we need to do is make an update to the sheet, and then automatically that updates into the campaign. Is that similar here, or once you tie it to a sheet, then if you make any changes on business data on the sheet, it will just automatically change to the campaign? Is that accurate?
That's right. Yeah. So it's similar experience. It's not exactly the same. The UIs are slightly different because with the Merchant Center there's a dedicated UI. In this particular case, for example, if you make a change to the sheet, you just have to come back in here into the UI and hit like upload, or I think it's apply changes, and it automatically will, flow into the campaign. So, but you do need to come into the AdWords UI to basically, I forget the exact button, but you hit a button to say upload, and then the changes will be flow into the campaign.
Just to clarify, so let's say we made a change, then you immediately go into the GW UI and have that upload button put.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Great product. I think it's going to be exciting.
Thank you.
So I'm Karim Sandwich. I would like to ask you, since you also have a product for designing ads, the Google Web Designer, and since I had a client once telling me that they're not happy with the templates that you already have, would you consider somewhere along the roadmap allowing us to tie certain elements in the Google Web Designer to certain XML elements, let's say in the feed, and say, I would like to use the Shop Now button in this layout, with this message, put the brand here, put the price there, put the rating there, or whatever we have in the feed?
Very good question, and we do get this often from a specific range of advertisers. So yes, we are thinking about that, and we do offer though right now a what we call a custom layouts program. It is offered to advertisers that have a certain minimum spend. I can probably share that offline. I don't have it off the top of my head, but basically it is exactly to accommodate advertisers that have very specific needs and would like a layout that looks very specific to their guidelines. Now, having said that, we have found that advertisers who sort of go this route later tend to see slightly lesser performance than advertisers that use our suite of layouts. And we're working very, very hard actually to sort of the next phase of this product really is a lot more on the creative and a lot more on the layout specifically, and making them, making them, obviously they're performant, but also making them really beautiful. That's the challenge, right? Beautiful creatives at scale is our challenge, and that's what we're working on. And I would say that, if it is absolutely required, we can definitely go that route, and we have that program available today. And we're wondering, we're actually working on deciding whether that should be exposed externally, like you said, via the GWD and Google Web Designer. But advertisers who tend to go sort of the custom route do sort of see some drops, because now, while we could have chosen layouts across a pool and shown the users the right layout that worked for that sort of demographic, now we're sort of only showing this one layout. And there's also, we've seen, we're starting to do some recent studies, but there's also a lot of lift that one gets from freshness. So while one particular layout in creative might look beautiful, and there is a freshness aspect that comes with using a pool of layouts. So a user might actually, who has seen the ad in one specific look, might actually see it in a different look and a very different design the next impression that they come across. So there's also a lot of benefits that come across, both with the rotation aspect, as well as in our backend, we do a lot of experiments with layouts and tweaking sort of where the position of the CTA should be, what should the size of the image be. And all of these learnings are sort of hard to bring about when you are tied down to like one specific layout. But we do have that option. It's called the Custom Layouts Program, and if you're interested, we can follow up offline.
Great overview. Thank you very much. So you mentioned the many signals that are taken into account for serving of the ads.
Right.
My question is specific to the other categories, the ones that aren't predefined, like travel.
Sure.
So in the others, will you give us control maybe through the schema to provide you maybe buying cycles, or because so maybe it could be an emergency solution that we're offering for a client, water extraction from your basement if it's flooded. So
Gotcha.
The buying cycle is very short. These people need to shop and find a service provider within hours, not
Right.
weeks or months.
Mm-hmm.
So how will we pass that info to you so you can use that, give more priority to that index or that signal just to serve it?
That's a really great point, actually, and we don't have that option today. I think it sort of implicitly happens, and I should take this as feedback, but a great idea. But it sort of implicitly happens today by the fact that that user, if they're in an area where there's been a flood, chances are they're looking at flood-related things on the site. See, the site offers a myriad of services, all kinds of plumbing, all kinds of different services. But they might be looking at flood-related pages, and that's how we would figure out that as soon as this person leaves the site and comes on the Google Display Network, that's the index that we should be showing them. So it sort of implicitly happens, but I think getting buying cycle information and knowing that we have a short window to show this is actually pretty valuable. And we don't have that today, but it sort of implicitly does happen. I think we can fine-tune that better. That's great.
Okay, my question is it like Google Shopping, do they have to have the ability to purchase online, and also is the price the required field?
Specifically for retail, or are you talking about generally
It's retail.
For retail?
But maybe it's a complicated product that has to be measured and quoted, and there isn't an exact price. Do you have to have the price in the feed? Like installing carpet or installing windows or...
Oh, I see. So services that are along the lines of installs. So I think for services such as exactly like installing carpets or flooring, I believe you would actually use a business data center rather than the Google Merchant Center feed, unless your client already has a Google Merchant Center feed. So if they're using the business data center, price is actually not a required feed. So if they want, they can choose to ignore price in the field. Now, they can also have, they also have one more level of control. Like when I showed you that UI with, let me try to just quickly go back here. This particular UI where they see a multi-layout preview, I believe one of the categories that we actually have here is price related. So they can also say that I just want to turn off these layouts that show price. I don't want a layout that shows price. So that's an option. But in the feed, they can also choose not to enter the price.
So they also don't have to be able to complete the purchase online. It doesn't have to be an item that has to be shipped.
No, it does not. So there's a lot more flexibility with this product. It's really up to the advertiser what they call a conversion. As you saw there in the UI, there was a list we created called conversion abandoners. And a conversion is very different in different verticals. So for example, in education, what we found is what advertisers want is to generate leads. And so they would have a page in the site where the user fills in a form or asks for more information, and we call that lead gen. And they can tag that as their conversion page if they wanted to. So they don't need to ship anything if they don't.
Back to the UI of the ads. How come I get to see ads with the specific room in the hotel? I was looking at the specific room. I look at the standard room. I get to see the ad with a picture of that specific room. If I look at the suite, I get to see a picture of this suite. It's not one of the categories listed here.
So the categories are just broad categories here. That's more for advertiser control. In terms of what the user saw on the site, so basically it really depends on the user experience on the site. So say they saw a specific hotel, say a specific hotel in Mountain View, and in the feed, we would match that, what the tag fire, with the ID in the feed. So for example, if you saw Hotel X on the site, and we see Hotel X in the feed, then that's how we know which exact image to show in the feed. Yeah. And actually, just one more thing to add there is, you see some ads have more than one item in the ad. We show 3 or sometimes more than 3. And those are also using some vertical specific signals. For example, if you're looking for hotels in Mountain View, maybe we can show you the one you looked at, but also a few others that are nearby and we know are very similar to the one you looked at. So we use sort of geo and some other signals for recommendation.
And could the remarketing, the dynamic remarketing, rules coexist with the classic remarketing or analytics on the same?
In the same campaign?
Yes.
So these are different campaigns.
Different campaigns.
Yeah.
But could it coexist on the same website?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Last question before we end.
So I definitely love the suggestion for Google Web Developer or Designer to have the ability to override and customize. That's kind of what we do.
Okay.
So I'm two parts. I think that's important, even if there are some metrics that say if you use our templates, we're going to have results.
Okay.
Advertisers want to customize. That's just a thing advertisers want.
Okay.
Secondary to that, if we're using templates, is there a way maybe via AdSense that content providers or content creators can actually override template styles to match the website to kind of look like native formats? And that's something that they already have power to do with text edits. Is that something that if we're using Google template options, that AdSense content creators have that ability to customize something to look like their site?
Great question. Yes, so we are looking at both of those options. Like I said earlier, we are looking at the Google Web Designer option. And we also are looking at native ads for dynamic. And specifically, like you said, being able to provide us some of the JS that's required to tailor the layout on the fly. So we're looking at both of those options. I think with the Google Web Designer, our concern has always been that once we open this up, and especially in AdWords, typically when we launch something, it's across the suite, right? It goes all the way from our largest clients to our smallest clients. So the issue has always been ensuring that we build power, but at the same time we don't sort of leave them in a situation where it's easier to make mistakes and end up with creatives that don't exactly look very good. So that's sort of been the balance that we've been trying to strike here. I do agree that the native ads one, we're definitely looking into that one. I think the Google Web Designer, that's sort of been the concern we've had, is how do we make this work for the full range of clients without making the product too complicated. So that's sort of been the challenge. But yeah, good feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll give a round of applause.